This is a 2009 Skoda Yeti. It's the first modern day Skoda SUV. And this is a 2022 Skoda Enyaq IV, its most recent SUV. Now on the face of it, these two cars have as much in common as me and Daniel Craig. However, look a little closer and we can identify several core themes that not only connect these two cars, but tell the story of the modern car industry. From company ownership to platform sharing, and from the rise of the SUV to the emergence of electrification, these two Skodas symbolise so much of what has happened in the automotive industry in the past 2 decades or so. In this video, we'll talk you through these themes, as well as provide an overview of why these particular cars are so highly rated. We're going to start with this, the Yeti, which is a car that says so much about consumer buying habits and also about Skoda's design ingenuity, both of which we will cover in a second. But first, I want to identify the first of those core themes that I mentioned we'd be talking about, that being ownership, by which I don't mean who owns this particular Yeti. Hint, out of the 2 people in the intro, it is not Daniel Craig, but rather who owns Skoda. The answer to that, of course, is the Volkswagen Group, which completed its acquisition of Skoda in the year 2000 following a partnership that had started 9 years earlier. Fast forward to 2022 and Skoda is one of the seemingly endless brands within the VW Group, which also includes Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, Cupra, Lamborghini, Bugatti, Porsche and Bentley, as well as Ducati motorcycles and a whole commercial vehicle business. The VW Group is far from alone in holding numerous brands. In fact, where once the car industry was made up of dozens of smaller companies, now you'll find that most roll up into one of the bigger brands. So for example, there's BMW with Mini and Rolls-Royce, or Geely with Volvo and Polestar, Proton, Lynk & Co and Lotus. And then there's Stellantis, which has, well, more brands than I'm probably going to remember here, but let's give it a go. So Alfa, Fiat, Jeep, Maserati, Citroen, Vauxhall, Opel. There's probably more as well, but that's not bad. Clearly there's profit to be made from this approach, because as a parent company you have more cars to sell, but you also have more cars to build. So how do you do that in a cost-efficient way? The answer is to share components across your brands as much as you possibly can. Platforms, engines, brakes, suspension, electronics, nuts, bolts, washers. As the parent company, you want to extract as much value from each of these things as you possibly can. But here's the tricky bit. How do you do all of that, but still make each of your products feel different and unique? The Yeti and the Enyaq demonstrate just how well this can be done. The Yeti sits on a Volkswagen Golf platform, while the Enyaq uses Volkswagen's ubiquitous MEB electric car architecture. They share hundreds of parts with VW cars of their respective eras, and yet this Yeti feels nothing like a Golf, and the Enyaq is very different from an ID.4. Now Skoda has always been very good in this regard. It's great at taking parts common to the VW Group, but adapting them to make vehicles that offer something genuinely different. The Yeti is a case in point. It was actually first shown all the way back at the 2005 Geneva Motor Show. By then, Skoda was well embedded within the VW Group and had conquered historical issues with build quality. It was ready to start putting its own stamp, its own individuality on what was an increasingly well-respected lineup of cars. To do that, it tapped into the third theme we shall capture in this video and designed a vehicle to compete in the rapidly growing market for SUVs and crossovers. It took 4 years for Skoda to turn the Yeti concept into a production reality, but the execution was, well, it was superb. Here was a car that was no more difficult to drive than a Volkswagen Golf, and yet it had the high driving position, rugged styling and excellent practicality that SUV drivers love. Not only that, but it's available with 4-wheel drive and had lots of ground clearance and short overhangs, which all meant it was actually pretty capable off-road too. So the Yeti can be a handy off-roader. In fact, it's just a handy car in general. It's packed with clever, thoughtful features that are designed to make life easier. The VarioFlex rear seats are probably the best example of this. They slide, recline, fold and can even come out completely. There's a big boot and lots of in-car storage, and the interior feels built to withstand the demands of family life without coming across as being utilitarian. This is just a really good all-round car. In fact, as a family car, it's perhaps even better than any of the VWs that were built on this platform. So, from Skoda's first modern day SUV to its latest, the Enyaq iV, noting of course that there have been several other Skoda SUVs in between, namely the B-segment Kamiq, the Karoq that replaced the Yeti, and the excellent 7-seat Kodiaq. But this Enyaq, well, this is something else. First and foremost, it excels in the same way as other modern Skodas, in that it takes VW Group parts and makes them into something that's, dare I say it, better than the VW Group alternative. The Enyaq is so good, in fact, that in 2021 we named it as our favourite family electric SUV after testing it against 9 other such cars. It beat not only the VW ID4 but also the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Mercedes EQA, the Kia e-Niro and more. It really is an outstanding family electric car. Which is the perfect segue into the fourth and final theme of this video, electrification. Perhaps even more than the rise of the SUV, it is the shift to electrification that is going to go down as the modern car industry's most seismic shift. Now, as for the pros and cons of electric cars, well, that's one for another video. But what you can't deny is firstly that electric cars can be very pleasant to drive. They're very quiet and very smooth. And secondly, that while it might not be the fastest or most exciting electric car on the market, the Enyaq is still a really strong contender. This top-spec 80 model combines respectable performance from its 201 horsepower electric motor with a range of more than 300 miles from a charge, meaning the Enyaq certainly ticks the EV basics. What turns the Enyaq from being good to being great, though, is that it marries all the good things it does as an electric car, such as its performance and its range, with the practicality that you expect from a family SUV, much like the Yeti has. And so it's roomy enough for 5 people and their luggage. It has lots of in-car storage. It's quiet and comfortable to drive. The ride, even on the 21-inch wheels of our test car, is really good. Okay, it's not perfect. It's a big, heavy car and it feels it, particularly when you have to brake hard. And it doesn't have the clever rear seats that you get in the Yeti. But even so, this is just a really good family car. It also still has evidence of Skoda carving its own path despite using shared VW Group componentry, most obviously in the Enyaq's case, the MEB electric car platform. For example, Skoda doesn't employ quite the same minimalist interior approach as VW MEB based cars do. So here, for example, there is a row of shortcut buttons that you don't get in the VW cars. These are really useful. It might seem like a small difference, but actually in everyday driving, just being able to press a button here to demist the windscreen or access the climate control or change driving modes, having them all there is much easier. Similarly, window switches. MEB VWs have 2 window switches and then a button to switch between front and rear, whereas in the Skoda you get individual buttons for each window. It's just simpler, easier to use. And the same thing goes for the wing mirror controls. In the VW cars, these don't have a very distinct stop between each movement, between left, right and folding the mirrors, where in Skoda it has a very distinct stop. And if you are on a busy high street trying to parallel park and you're worried about curbing your wheels, so you want to drop the mirror, having a distinct stop makes it much easier to use. Same goes for the steering wheel controls being proper buttons rather than touch sensitive pads. They might not look as slick, but they are so much easier to use. It's the same sort of common sense approach that leads you to, well, put an umbrella in the door. Just practical, useful solutions taking priority over flashy design. And it is proof that despite all the themes that we've seen emerge in the car industry over the last 20 years, from big companies buying up smaller ones to shared platforms and parts, and from the unstoppable rise of the SUV and now the dawn of electrification, it is still possible to build something that is unique, something that is different, and that, as far as consumers are concerned, can only be a very good thing indeed. For a more in-depth look at either the Yeti or the Enyaq, check out our full reviews linked in the description. If you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe and turn on notifications, and remember to head to cargurus.co.uk when it comes time to find your next car, because that's where you'll find loads of great deals from top-rated dealers.